I'd gone to the shopping center that's about a 30-minute walk from my house. I'd taken the bus up there, but it only stops at the shopping center once an hour. While I would usually take the bus home from the shopping center, the bus wasn't due for another 45 minutes by the time I had done what I needed to do. And my 10-year-old brother was at home alone. My mom has no problem with me leaving my brother home alone for an hour because he can take care of himself for that long. So I decided to walk back to my house instead of waiting, basically an hour for the bus. On my way home, I saw a man, maybe 40 to 45 years old, walking in the opposite direction. I was walking south and he was walking north. As he turned the corner to walk towards me, I got the impression that he didn't look quite right, probably because as he was walking, he was just staring at me. As he walked past me, I got a sinking feeling like when you're on a plane and it starts to descend. As I continued to walk, it felt like someone was following me. So when I got to the bus stop, I made it look like I was checking the bus times, which gave me an excuse to turn around. Once I did, my heart started racing. This guy had changed direction and turned 180 degrees to walk in the same direction as me. He was walking faster than he was before, and this freaked me the heck out. I was close to the road that I would usually turn up to get on my street. I turned up the street and had walked about 25 meters up it when I heard the crunching of a chip packet. I knew I had passed. He was still behind me. I decided I would cross the road to put more distance between us. From here I could go a longer way home. This longer way had a lot of corners, making it more difficult to follow me. This route also had a lot of teenagers who were home due to the summer holidays. So if the guy tried anything, there would be a lot of people who had more than likely hear me screaming. Now you may be wondering, why didn't you call the police? I had been stupid and left my phone at my house, so I had no chance of calling the police while walking. Even if I could, I probably wouldn't out of the fear of provoking something. While my weight is mostly muscle, I'm not large enough to take on someone who looks like they weigh twice what I did. So while I was taking the long route, I turned around and looked behind me. He was still there. This is where I started a plan to get back to my house. I turned the next corner and sprinted along the path as quickly and as quietly as I could. I was on my house's street. If I was going straight home, I would have gone left. But instead, I went straight ahead towards a small park that's just up the street from my house. The reason I did this was because I could go up through the park and around to get back to my house. As I was crossing the road to get to the park, I looked back, and I saw him jogging up the path I had just come from. He saw me and started sprinting towards me. Luckily, I had a 150-meter head start. I ran through the park and looped around to the left. The area behind the park is like a maze, so this gave me an advantage. Once I was behind the park and out of sight, I continued sprinting for a house with an old shed in its front yard. That shed's always open, and the door was open, as always. So I hid in there, able to look through a small window. He was looking around for me. He then walked away, though. I was planning on going to get back to my house. I was still too scared to leave the shed. So I waited for about 10 minutes before I saw him walking back towards the park on his phone. I heard part of what he was saying into the other end. Yeah, I lost her, but I think she lives around here. She's a crafty little... After he passed, I waited another 10 minutes before leaving the shed and sprinting back towards my house. I called my mom, who called the police, who in turn called me. I gave a description of the man. I refused to leave my house alone for a week. I've never seen him again, and the police haven't come up with anything. A couple of years ago, I worked room service for a hotel. This one day, I had an overnight shift, which was easy since no one usually orders food that often. An order came in at around 4 a.m., just chicken parmesan, a popular item for the limited night menu. Once the cook made it, I got the tray together and took the elevator up to the room on the 14th floor, the top floor. I walked down the corridor to the room to knock on it. Usually you knock, say room service, and once they open the door, you place the tray on the table and give them a check to sign. One reason I liked working room service was the good tips you make. I always was tipped well since I always brought up the food earlier than the time frame that was given to them, as well as being a nice girl that didn't try to talk too much since most people just want their food. When I knocked on the door and waited for the person to answer, I heard movement on the other side. Not unusual, since it's them getting up from the bed or couch or muting the TV and walking over. But this noise was different. I couldn't explain how I made the mental note of why I thought it was different. It just didn't sound normal, like it was more movement than would be appropriate for the size of a normal hotel room. I don't know what they could have been doing. When the door opened, a normal-looking man was there. I assumed a businessman, since that's the usual type of people that stay at my hotel. I noticed he looked very worn out or tired, and I thought it was just because it was 4 in the morning. As I set the tray down, I heard the door close. I wasn't weirded out since all hotel doors automatically close if you aren't holding them open. But what was weird was when I heard the lock get set. I turned around to give the guy the check to sign, and I tried to act normal, even though I was getting nervous. He seemed too cheery for this time of night, and started asking a lot of personal questions, like what my age was, and if I grew up in the area and what city that was. I answered how I was 19, and even though I was from the area, I just said I'm from around here because I felt weird telling him info like that. I just started getting the creeps. I think he noticed I was getting uncomfortable and started getting closer as he was signing the check. Then he looked me up and down in the most disgusting way. I already felt violated right when he made eye contact with me. He lunged at me and tried to grab me. I moved to the side as fast as I could and jumped on the bed. Then I leaped off the bed for the door. I barely got the door open when he grabbed my arm and I started screaming as loud as I could to hopefully wake up anyone that was on that floor since he didn't want to get caught. He let me go, and right when he did, I ran down the hallway to the employee elevator and locked the door right away. My heart was pounding, not believing what just happened. With working room service, you always get some creepy people, and I always thought of bad stuff that could happen when delivering food, but I never thought it would actually happen. When I got down to the lobby, I told the night manager what happened, and he said he would call the police and report the incident. I stayed until the police showed up to give them my statement, but when they went up to the room, the man was gone. Not one trace of someone being there except the untouched plate of food I delivered. The name on the reservation didn't match any real person when they looked it up in the system, and the room was paid in cash. So no credit card name or info. My heart sank, knowing the police couldn't do anything else besides having them be on the lookout for a tall man with dark hair and pale blue, almost gray eyes. That was the most description I could give, since he didn't have any unique features, and that this man was just out there somewhere. I then went home, since I couldn't finish my shift from being so shook up. I was even more paranoid, because I realized I told the man I lived in the area. He could be easily watching me leave the hotel and drive home since it was late, and no one was on the roads, so it was easy to see. I wasn't being followed as far as I knew, but my heart was still pounding the entire drive home, expecting I would see him somewhere. I got home and went inside as quickly as I could and tried watching TV to distract me from spiraling in possibilities of what could have happened if I didn't get out of there in time. I had to quit my job since I was so paranoid of something similar happening again. And I don't think I can ever work at a hotel again from this incident. Hello, everyone! If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful or entertaining, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. Your support motivates us to create more content you'll love. Thanks a million. And if you've just subscribed, please drop a comment saying I subscribed. We'd love to welcome you to our community.